Hello everyone. While you're fixing the front brakes on an old 4x4 truck, it's pretty common for the front drive axles and locking hubs to need service. And this one was in very bad shape. So I had to dig in and replace the axle U-joints and service the wheel bearings and manual locking hubs on my '86 Ford Diesel Ranger. I did a lot of wire wheeling on rusty parts and treated everything with Rust-Oleum rust reformer and stops rust paint. I'll show a minimum of that work in this video. There's nothing holding the locking hubs to the brake rotor except the wheel being bolted over it, so it fell on the floor when I pulled the wheel. I previously did a front brakes video, so I'm not including brake work in this one. To see that, please check out the disc brakes video on this channel. For this one, I'm starting with the caliper already removed.
I've never worked on the hubs on a Ranger. I have rebuilt them on an F-150. So this is going to be an adventure. There's this C-clip around it that so far I'm only succeeding in spinning it. But now that I have it turned up, I might be able to get on it from two sides.
I filmed this process better on the driver's side, so here we are.
So the trick is to stop it from rotating when you hit it, and I found I could do that by gently clamping a vice grip on here. And you don't want to squeeze real hard on those splines, you don't want to damage them, but put it right here in a position so that it will block that C-clip from rotating. Maybe I can even, yeah, no, it's a little bit tricky. A little bit tricky getting it to clamp on there. It's got to be right up against that end of the C-clip, like that.
Notice the orientation of the vice grip pliers. The movable jaw is toward the C-clip ring groove.
That might work. So on this side of the vice grip, the C-clip is up against the jaw. And now I can take this end of the C-clip and hit it down and hopefully get it to come off that side of the shaft there. Okay, another hit try. Now you probably can't see that, but I'm going to move the camera so you can. See how that C-clip is hanging off the bottom there? So now I should just be able to pry it off of there very easily, because it's barely on. Well, it was on there pretty good still, but there it is. It came off. No harm done. So that's the first thing that comes off as we're keeping track of the order of disassembly. The next part that comes off is this splined, it's a splined thrust washer. You see the splines in it. And right behind that is this little thrust bearing. It's full of tiny rollers that rides up against the back of it. And the next thing to come off is this thrust washer, which is behind that thrust bearing that rides behind the splined thrust washer. So that thrust bearing is sandwiched between those two thrust washers, with the splined one being the farthest out. The splined one is actually what's held in by that clip, that C-clip. Okay, so now just like I did on the other side, I'll use this specialty wrench. It's a specialty socket designed just for these to get that first spindle lock nut off, loosen that up. It came right off on the other side. Hopefully it'll do the same thing here. Yep. So that's the first thing that comes off, is that lock nut. And then right after that is this keyed washer. Why do I say it's keyed? Because it's got this little key in it that rides in this slot on the top of the spindle. So when those are squeezed together by that lock nut, nothing's going to turn. So that's there. And then the last thing holding this rotor in is this spindle nut that's actually holding the outside wheel bearing in. And there it is. Just another nut. But this one goes in directly against that wheel bearing.
Look closely at the pin protruding from the face of this spindle bearing nut. That pin protrudes into one of the holes in the keyed locking washer that sits flat against this.
And the next thing we were taking out of there is the wheel bearing, the outside wheel bearing. That's got to be cleaned up and inspected. And now the rotor can come right off. The inside wheel bearing is going to come with it and stay in there. And there's the inside wheel bearing. You can see there. It's got to be knocked out. That wheel bearing seal has to be knocked out, and the bearing will follow it. Now let's see how we do on removing this rotor. Smooth as can be. Oh, that seal in the back looks pretty worn. It's really old. I'll have to replace the seal and repack the bearings. This whole thing needs a good cleaning. I'm just looking at the condition of the spindle here. Which isn't bad. I've certainly seen worse. I'm going to see if I can take this backing plate off without breaking the screws here. That one came off pretty good. That one, I don't know.
I'm only removing the splash plate so it can be wire wheeled and painted, which I did. If it was in good shape, I wouldn't have needed to.
Hey, wasn't exactly smooth, but it worked loose. There's one more over here. Which is a definite maybe. Got it loose a little bit. Okay. That's two. And three. I highly doubt that these are available as replacement parts, but I think it's still solid enough that I can clean it up and paint it. These are 15 millimeter. I think it's actually moving. Sure is. And this thing is in really bad condition here. I don't know if that'll be reusable. The bottom part is okay. It's the part that sticks out this way that's very deteriorated. I might be stuck using it though. I bet I can't get one.
I actually found 10 of them on eBay.
This seal, still flexible. It's not dried or cracked anywhere. It's in decent condition. There's a possibility I might leave this. Let's see what happens if I try to pull this shaft out. Oh, it has a bellows on it, farther in there. So there's a bellows and a spline holding that together. I need to release that bellows so I can get this out, because frankly, this U-joint in here is frozen. So I need to pull this shaft out and replace the joint. And it might not be as bad as I was thinking it might be because of that bellows. But I have to inspect underneath before I can decide what to do. Okay, so here's the bellows I was talking about. There's the axle shaft that goes out by the wheel. Here's a yoke for another U-joint in here next to the pumpkin. And I won't be able to tell how flexible this joint is until this is pulled out, so that this can just hang there loose, if it is loose. Otherwise I'm going to have to try to figure out how to replace this U-joint as well. And that's a bummer. So one side of that bellows on the axle had a cable tie on it. You probably saw it in the picture. I cut that cable tie, and it seemed to be pretty loose fitting. The bellows was loose on the shaft. So let's see how this works out. Yep. Okay, great. Look at this U-joint. Oh shoot, I can't even move it that way. Okay, I guess the steering was a little tight. I'm going to use this blunt end of this used to be cold chisel, I guess, to knock the bearing out, the inner bearing out, and in doing so I'll be knocking that seal out. I have to hit the bearing and not the race. The outer edge of the bearing. And there it is. So I'm going to start the cleaning process for the parts from the front hub. Down in the barn, I'm going to pour fresh kerosene into here and soak these greasy parts overnight, or maybe longer, and then really clean them out by hand with the brush, with a soft brush this time. So this dropped down. Ooh. All right. So the good news is this U-joint appears to be in good shape. It's very loose and smooth. Smooth as silk. So I don't have to worry about that one, thank goodness. I wish it had a grease fitting on it so I could take care of it. But I guess it's getting enough fallout from all this oil, all these oil drips under here. Okay, that's good luck.
I used the tip of a steel shaft screwdriver to knock the inside C-clips off of these rusty old U-joint caps. This screwdriver is solid steel from end to end, so I'm hitting on a steel handle tip rather than a plastic one. They're designed for this. I'm not sure why I went this route at first. It definitely isn't the most effective way to knock U-joints out of their yoke. But I persisted and it eventually worked.
Yep. Well, maybe some more. I think that's the bottom. Let me see if I can pull that out with some vice grips. Alright, here's the first one. Rusty as can be. Totally packed with, I don't know what, rust. Alright. Back down here. Yep, no, that way. The other one has to go back out, so this way. Okay. Let me see it. Shoot. All right, hold it. tight. Push down. Wow. It needs to come some more somehow. Totally dry and rusted. None of the pins are destroyed though, that's funny. See what that looks like?
Yeah.
Those little rollers are bearings. And they roll around that as this turns. I've got to get, see there's lock rings in there. Like that. That's what I'm trying to get out. Now I can probably put this in the vise. There's one. There's the other one. Well, you know what we could try? Let's try this.
Oh,
See that?
nice.
I should have been doing that in the first
Oh, you
place. I'm getting rusty in my old age.
These are, there you go. Now. Let me see it. Yep. Finally.
Same way on the other side. I'm pounding on the yoke next to the U-joint cap. Since the U-joint is supported on both sides by the vise, the cap is forced upward.
Okay.
That was the inner hub seal.
That's just a seal that rides against the back side of the hub. I'm going to paint it with rust reformer. There's not much I can do about how heavily rusted and pitted it is. Again, it's heavily rusted and pitted. I'm going to spray it with rust reformer and then Rust-Oleum paint. So this is Rust-Oleum Rust Reformer. It makes a good primer under Rust-Oleum paint. Okay, that rust reformer is nicely cured. It's been more than 24 hours. Actually has a good feel to it. But now it's time to hit it with Rust-Oleum Stops Rust. And I'm going to put it, this is one of those cans with the adjustable nozzle. I'm going to put it on number 3 for low output. I just want to see how that comes out. Because when I tried number 2 with the other can, it was a really high output, and I put a really heavy coat on it. So maybe a couple fine coats of low output is the way to go. Let's just see. Oh yeah, they call that low output. Well, now I have to let it dry and flip it over and do the other side. But in the meantime, I can do this one. Okay. I didn't mask the bores on these, so they're painted. I haven't even cleaned them. But after the paint is set up, I'm going to go through and clean all that paint out with an abrasive drum, a small one. I want those to be clean, shiny metal, and then I'll treat them with Never Sees. So now I need to install this seal on this drive axle shaft. And it goes on simply this way. But it's metal on metal. So I think I'm going to put a little bit of silicone in there just to help it be waterproof. And then I have to figure out how to drive that on without damaging it. So I've got some Loctite Superflex silicone adhesive sealant. The high temperature stuff I had is all hardened up. I'm just going to put that up in here. Like so. Just to help this gasket seal. It's not a gasket, it's a seal. Just to help the metal part of the seal seal to metal. And this goes on this way. Like so. I've got a piece of inch and a half PVC pipe here that I'm going to use to drive this on. That way it's plastic pushing against plastic. Wish me luck on this. What's going on? Not the best technique, but it's going to work, it looks like. It appears to be all the way on. I'll just give it a couple for good luck.
I should have stopped there.
And there it is. That worked just fine. I did kind of damage that plastic in there. So this seal seals against the inside here. Just going to put a little grease on the lips here. And on the bearing surface. There is a bearing inside this hub. There's a little roller bearing in here, and there's a seal, and they appear to be in good condition. I'm not going to mess with them. I might clean that bearing a little more and grease it, but this is how it goes when it's being assembled. Just like that. And this is the spindle. Your wheel bearings go here and here. But that seems to be a nice fit. Everything in good shape. So let me just pack this bearing with grease. It's just a little roller bearing, kind of needle bearings. Just need a good coat of grease stuffed into them. And this is a sealing surface here that this rubber seal is going to ride against. This seal. Alright. Let's look at that again. Funny how with grease on it, it doesn't want to fit together as well. Yeah, that's good. I guess those seals are able to push back better now that they're greased. Alright, now I've got to get that universal joint reassembled. I don't have a flapper that'll fit in that U-joint yoke, so I'll just wrap some emery cloth around this stone and use that to clean out the ID. And that's almost perfect. Needs a little more work to get the rest of the paint off. Almost perfect. Need some fresh grit. Get in there. That's going to be nice.
They came out very clean and rust-free, but I later discovered I overdid it. The U-joint caps can rotate in the yoke. They aren't tight.
This one's as smooth as can be. I think this one needs just a little more work.
It might have been better if I stopped right here.
That's nice. I get this grit off of here. The little baggie in there that has the clips in it. Never sees. Coat that whole board, it's all bare metal. And put some on the U-joint bearing cap here. Same on the other side. Of course, I got never sees all over my hands. I should have used rubber gloves.
I'm using the C-clamp to squeeze the bearing caps into the yoke. The ring grooves on the sides of the bearing caps need to clear the inside of the yoke so there's space to snap the C-clips into them.
Seems like neither side is in quite far enough for the ring to go in. Put a little more squeeze on it. I saw that one move. Yep. There's plenty of space there.
It's possible for the needle bearings inside the cap to fall out of position and get squeezed between the U-joint journal and bearing cap. If that happens, you won't be able to squeeze the assembly far enough
What about this side?
to clear the ring grooves,
This side's not there yet.
because the bearing pins are in the end of the cap instead of around the side.
Not quite. Huh. Ooh, I saw it move that time. Yep. It's all the way in. Seems a little tight, but I give it a hit here and here. Yep, that seems better. Even better still. Hitting it with the hammer, hitting the yoke with the hammer, forces the momentum of the joint to push that bearing cap back a little. Pushes it firmer against its snap ring on the inside. And of course the paint's damaged now that I beat on it. There's still no metal showing through. The axle stub is done. Now for the axle shaft. Got to start by cleaning out the yoke here for the U-joint. Clean those bores out a bit. They're clean. They're clean anyway. Never seize. And plenty of it. Make sure all those bare metal surfaces are covered. There's a little grease fitting screwed into this side. I have to take that out to make space. So I can squeeze these in with the C-clamp. This side doesn't want to go in. There it goes. It was started a little crooked by someone. I don't know who would have done that. Well, those just pop right in there when that groove is exposed. This side has gone in a little too far. Have to try to push it back somehow. That moved a little bit. That ring, I just dropped it. That ring is almost ready to go in. I think I'll give this another squeeze. That should go in. Not quite. And just try this. Yeah, I think that's in. The whole thing feels, all in all, really good. Okay. Now the grease fitting that was there, I'm going to replace that with a real grease fitting.
The driver's side axle pulled out a little easier than the passenger side did. It's a shorter axle without an inboard U-joint, and it just pulls right out of the side of the differential housing. Everything else on the driver's side is exactly the same as the passenger side.
See that popping out? Still has half of that ring in it. That one that broke.
I followed up the wire wheeling of the rusted parts with a thorough cleaning. At least 5 spray cans of brake cleaner got used up on this job. Then I gave everything 2 coats of rust reformer with 24 hours between each coat. Then a top coat of Rust-Oleum stopped rust paint in satin finish. After several days of curing, the paint developed a smooth and hard-feeling surface.
Okay, so just a few words on this universal joint. These U-joints come with these C-clips that are incredibly well packaged. Like, I'm not even going to waste time trying to open that. So these are the C-clips. There's 4 of them because there's 4 caps, 4 bearing caps. And they look like little C's. And this particular U-joint has a threaded hole for a grease fitting. And this threaded hole happens to be a 1032 thread, number 10, 32 threads per inch. So I had to buy that separately because it comes with just a weird little fitting that isn't a Zerk. But what I really wanted to show you was this. These bearing caps fit inside the bores on the yoke. And when they're pressed all the way in, they're in there. They fit almost perfectly from one side to the other. And then the thing that holds them inside the yoke is they have these grooves in them, and the C-clips snap into those grooves. There's a groove in each one, and so those C-clips clip inside here. So the bearing cap is here and the C-clip slides in and holds it in. After you're done installing it, you can tighten this grease fitting up and hit it with some grease. Go ahead and give it a couple pumps of grease. They do come pre-greased, but it's not going to hurt to give it a little more. And when I pulled that off, I just noticed something else. There's a washer there, a little thrust washer or retaining washer, which those little needle bearings line up against. Another thing is, I don't know if the camera can see those little bearings. You need to be very careful, because if one of those needles falls over, it can fall flat inside there. And then when you put the cap on, the little needle will be stuck between the top of the cap there, the end of the cap, and the end of this journal. So you've got to be very careful not to let any of those fall in. That happens quite a bit. Ah, perfect.
It takes several attempts to get this right. It was still a little too tight this time, so I had to drive it back out.
Oh boy. So when this fell, 6 of those little needle bearings fell out, and I had to search the ground for them. I found all 6, fortunately, and I put them back in line. You know, I cleaned them off very clean first, and I put them all back in, lined them all up, and now all the needle bearings are accounted for and in position. And yeah, this needs a little more back to where I was. This needs a little more work. Okay, this looks like it's in really good shape now. It should work perfectly. Oh yeah, that's going to be great. I went ahead and put a coat of Never Sees inside these bores and on the bearing caps and in that C-ring C-clip groove as well. This is not going in right. I think maybe one of those pins fell down. Nope, that looks right. Maybe the other side, I don't know. Let's see. Maybe it just needs a little more persuasion. That appears to be it. There it goes. Okay, that side went right in. I think I need to shift it over this way a little. Alright, that might be ready to go in. Yeah, it's in. The sun got to be way too much out there for me. So that one fell and rolled around, but it didn't lose a single pin. And the inside isn't touched, it stayed clean. Doesn't get any better than that. That's good. This groove is a little bit farther that way than it needs to be. So this C-clip will just pop right in there. Just a little more. Man, that thing's... Yep. All set, ready to go. I soaked the end of this with, this is just one of those shop towels, disposable shop towel on the end of a wooden dowel. And I soaked the end of my homemade Q-tip here with PB Blaster to just try to clean that seal off. Just trying to clean that seal off the best I can. Yeah. A lot of what I'm seeing on it actually is spray paint, so that's not going to come off. Just going to see if I can get my hand in there and actually wipe that thing off. If I can get back there far enough. Oh yeah. That seal still feels kind of pliable and rubbery. It's probably okay. I don't know if I can get light on it down so that the camera can actually see that seal. Oh yeah, there it is. So I greased the splines here and the smooth surface here, which is the sealing surface that sits in the rubber seal in there. It doesn't just sit there, it rotates there.
Notice the flat spindle mounting surface has been totally cleaned off.
Nice, just goes right in. Nice and smooth.
I cleaned, wire wheeled, and painted the steering knuckles.
So I'm using a different parts cleaning brush for this. It's a much softer bristle. It's a Calvan 266. And I put new kerosene in here. I always use new kerosene on wheel bearings or anything that you don't want damaged by old gritty kerosene. This will just clean all that old grease out of there. I'm going to rinse it right through there. I can still see a little grease in there. I'll just set this down on a clean shop cloth and move on to the next. Okay, I got my stiffer parts cleaning brush. I'm going to use that just to clean the heavy stuff off the spindle and the locking hub. Being that this has so much rust, I'm going to have to use the wire wheel.
All the wheel bearing parts got a final rinse with brake clean, then they were allowed to thoroughly dry.
Just giving them a final rinsing with brake clean before I pack them. Okay, time to hand pack the bearings, the wheel bearings. I'm going to start with a clean palm or a clean glove on palm. Get yourself a nice dab of grease on it. And then take it this way and pack it in there. Make sure it's pressed in there. You're packing it between the inner race and the cage, the roller cage. There's a gap there between them. And then once that's all full, pack them into the rollers. And that is so packed I can't rotate it. It'll be fine though when it goes in onto the spindle, with the spindle in here and the outer race here. You can tell it's totally packed. And for the second one, same process. I used to do this barehanded, but these gloves make it a little more palatable. Okay, that one's totally packed. I'm going to throw these away. Well, let's see. There's also this little thrust bearing with the tiny rollers in it. Gotta pack the grease in there too. Okay. And might as well grease the thrust washers. Just put a coat of grease on them.
This all needs to be done on the other side as well.
And even the bearing lock nuts, the spindle lock nuts.
These will be closed inside a clean box until I need to install them.
And this locking washer that goes between them. And by the way, there's a little pin right here that one of these holes goes into.
You know what I mean.
So when you screw this onto the spindle and you put this washer over it with that key and the keyway on the spindle, you got to line that pin up with one of those holes to prevent it from turning. Okay. This has been soaking for actually more than a week now. So all that paint came off just from soaking. So all this paint is going to get wire brushed off, and then this will be repainted. That looks pretty clean in there for starters. Now I have to disassemble it. Okay, so around the outer diameter in there, there's a C-clip that expands into a groove, and that holds everything in. And the end of that has a little relief in it so that you can get a screwdriver tip into it. I don't think I'll be able to capture that on video. It's right there.
Get behind the snap ring with the tip of a screwdriver. Pry it toward the center of the hub, just a little bit. Just enough to get a scratch-all hook under it. And pry it upward. Then I was able to get a second, heavier gauge hook under it.
This is a brass hook, by the way.
Work it around and pull the ring out.
So that snap ring is the first part that comes out. That stuff's supposed to slide right out. Obviously it didn't. This is what would have come out next, followed by this spring, followed by this splined, double splined lock, which splines around this and internally. Just one screw holds this knob in there, but that also holds some parts together inside. They just dropped out. There's also an O-ring here that seals it. I'm going to have to clean everything off, and then as I reassemble it, it'll be easier to see what's going on.
I first cleaned these filthy hub parts in semi-dirty kerosene.
Okay, looks good. Doesn't appear to be excessively worn or damaged in any way either. This is an assembly. I'm going to have to disassemble it to finish cleaning it. That requires removing the snap ring from the top here. Okay, looks pretty good.
These parts were cleaned again with brake cleaner.
This is actually the wrong type of snap ring plier. This is for inside snap rings. I need one for outside snap rings, but I made it work. So then this comes off. There's actually a roller bearing in here that can be cleaned up and packed with grease. And there's a thrust bearing there, or a thrust washer I mean. This needs to be cleaned more. The splines on it look okay. The splines in the center, these are the splines that the axle goes in, the stub axle. I'm just going to clean this stuff up. All the rest of the parts need to be cleaned up. I'm going to, wire brush and paint this, clean this on the inside, and then put it all back together. Okay, I'm going to start reassembling these parts into the hub. And the first part that goes in or on will be the selector knob that selects lock or free position. And that ties in with this on the inside. They actually interlock like that. There's a pentagon shaped nut there. It's pentagon shaped that this goes over and aligns with and locks into, but then it's held together with a screw. And on the top of this is an O-ring. This O-ring's in good condition, very good condition. I'm just gonna hit it with some grease, help it seal. There it is, greased up, and this whole thing is spring loaded. This piece here actually goes in here, goes over this, so when you turn that, it rides in and out like this. And then there's a spring, and this is all on the inside, and then this holds it together from the outside. But I think this probably needs some grease as well. So that it turns freely. Probably doesn't need a lot. This goes there. This goes into the inside. All the way in. I have to push it in deep enough so that I can engage this locking knob with it. So I'm going to use an empty pill bottle to push that in. And that holds it all the way to the top like that. And this goes on here this way.
There's a trick here. The knob has to be in the correct index with the splined rotating parts inside the hub,
And is held in place with a screw in the center.
or it won't turn to the correct position. It took me several attempts to get things oriented correctly.
Now I don't know if you can see it. I can barely see it, but okay. It's not in the proper alignment here. Let's try this one. Now that seems to be a little off as well. I'm going to put grease down in these splines. All this stuff needs grease. To be able to move freely in there and smoothly. This cog piece slides down in those splines, and it needs to be able to slide up and down or in and out smoothly. The spring goes in first. Then this. Should move in and out smoothly, like this. I'm going to use a pill bottle to hold it in position. Here it is all the way to the top, which is where it should be. That's not a good position. That looks pretty good there. It took me several tries to get that lined up correctly. But you'll know it's lined up when the arrow points to the locking arrow there and it clicks over to the free arrow. If it's not in there right, it might not go far enough to click free or lock. Click free probably. Or it might start off like way over here and then it can't click free. So that's the first part of that assembly. And just make sure it's tight. Yep, tight enough. So this little assembly in there I have to work on next. And there's a snap ring that I removed that holds this all together. This pulls out. And there's a roller bearing inside here, which is actually pretty easy to just pop out of this plastic ring. I cleaned it out really well. I just want to grease this bearing up. Make sure it's got plenty of lubrication in there. Try to pack it in. Pack the rollers with grease as much as you can. Get it in there, get the whole thing filled. Put pressure on it. Make sure that these rollers are packed. You know, there's the roller retainer in there. You got to pack it in there. Okay. And once you have that, actually I'm going to put grease here. This is just a thrust washer, spacer washer. I'm going to grease that. I'm going to grease this smooth bearing surface here. Nice. Time for the snap ring. These snap ring pliers don't fit these holes exactly right, but it should work. See if I can do it in a way that the camera can see. There it is. So that's all reassembled and ready for the next step. So the next step is I'm going to grease this up. Grease the internal spline here. Grease the external spline. And basically you want everything to have grease. And I'm using this Valvoline brand multi-vehicle Moly fortified gray grease, which is recommended for Ford, Lincoln, Mercury vehicles. All greased up. This will eventually go on there and work that grease a bit. Put some more. You just want everything to be very greasy. Okay, and there are actually some cog teeth on this diameter here, and they need to slide into the splines in there. Index this bearing so that it lines up with these teeth, these splines. But here's the tricky part. This spring goes in there. Plenty of grease on everything. This goes in first. Then this spring. And then this. So once you get these outer splines started here, There's a ring groove in there that this retaining ring goes into. Got to try to get that pushed down all the way around into that groove. That's it. This whole thing is greased up now that I've handled it so much with my greasy gloves. Let's see how this drive axle yoke responds in here. It's turning free. I'll put it in the lock position. It is locked. I'll put the hub in the free position. And it's free. So everything seems to be in order here.
I stuffed grease into the inboard U-joint spline next to the differential housing. So I'm wiping it off my finger onto the drive axle spline that inserts into it. That adds up to plenty of grease for those splines. It was hot in the garage that day. There was no way I'd be able to insert the axle end into the rubber boot on the inboard U-joint yoke and align the splines without some help. Fortunately, my helper was home.
So I'm trying to put this axle in. If you remember, it has that spline on the end. I need to line it up underneath, so I've got to go underneath. And then I need you to take this and hold it and push it in when I say.
Okay.
And this, it's important, the alignment is very important. So this needs to be perfectly horizontal here.
Okay.
Across this joint. It should be horizontal.
All right.
And then this should be vertical.
All right.
All right. But first we need to get it lined up. It's got to be pushed through a rubber boot and lined up with the splines on the other U-joint in there. So it might take a little effort here, but we'll see. Tight fitting boot it has to go into. Okay, take a hold of it and guide it straight in. Now, let me see. That darn light is in my eyes. Nope. I'm trying to get it to just start it in the boot. All right, hold it. These are not helping. Okay, push a little. Push.
I am.
Okay, hold it. Maintain. All Are you perfectly horizontal?
It's, I mean, yeah. As you touch it, it moves.
Yeah, I know, but
But yes.
right now it is.
Yes, right now.
Okay, push. 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 That's it. It's in.
Okay.
Now, is it perfect? Is it still, let's see, right here is perfect for me. Is it still perfect?
I can't tell. By looking at this,
The splines aren't
doesn't
keyed.
look like it.
It doesn't look like it.
There.
No. Right there.
It's important to make sure the U-joint yokes on both ends are perfectly aligned with each
Hold
other.
this centered in the hole
Yeah.
and straight, like straight axle.
Yes.
It looks like it's probably pretty good.
Okay.
I think. I don't see how we could do much better, really. Let me have a look. Yeah, I'd say that's as good as it can get.
Okay.
All right, that's all set. Thank you.
That all you need me for? Okay, good.
Yep, that's all
Got
I
a little-
need.
little grease on the back of your head.
Oh, can you grab that? Yeah, just wipe it off. This is what the Ford manual, the Ford Ranger repair manual calls a spindle seat. It's just a stamped sheet metal. The spindle sits in here and it's a dust shield around the inside there. But as you can see, this thing is in terrible condition. There's not much left of it. This is the one from the passenger side, and the one from the driver's side is a lot worse than this. And here's the ones I got from eBay. Completely solid. There was a little light rust on the surface, and I cleaned them off a bit with a Scotch-Brite pad and sprayed some Rust-Oleum. Can't ask for any better than that.
I'll coat the spindle mounting surface with Never Seize. As well as all the spindle studs. I applied plenty of grease to the inner axle stub seal. Then the axle stub bearing surface. And the splines and shaft for good measure. Never Seize here too.
I had already packed this bearing in here. I'm just going to put a bunch of grease in there, a bunch more. and here. The slot goes up.
There's a need to be careful with this, since there's a small seal behind that inner axle bearing I just greased. The inner yoke seal offers some resistance as it's pushed into the back of the spindle. The bearing nut threads get a good coating of grease. This ended up being the wrong size socket. These aren't 5/8 inch, they're 15 millimeter. Evenly tighten the 5 nuts in a star pattern.
That's what's
Torque the spindle nuts in a star pattern. I did 30 foot-pounds for the first step.
Alright, that's 30. The spec on these is 35 to 45. I'll take them up to 43. Three clicks. Make sure you do 3 clicks. At least 2. I got movement out of that second one. Okay, that's all of them, right? That one moved quite a bit. I think maybe I missed it last time. And that one again. Okay, by the way, this is a 15 millimeter socket for those.
Filling the void between the wheel bearings with grease. There isn't a lot of space in there on these rotors. Get all the grease off the sealing surfaces. Time to install my pre-greased bearings. You got to try to drive it in as straight as you can, but if you don't have the proper driver, use a soft face hammer and just work it in. Try to work it in as evenly as possible all the way around. Make sure it's fully seated. And that's the best you can do. Then put some grease on the lip here. These are called lip seals. The lip needs a little lubrication. Maybe more than a little. I'm going to fill up the space between the lip seal and the bearing here. That'll be good.
Yeah, that's a little too tight. I got it snug down there. It's a little too tight. Just making sure. Over tighten it a little bit. Go ahead and rotate it around, make sure everything's seated in place where it needs to be. And then back it off a touch. It shouldn't really be tight. Still seems a bit tight. No, it doesn't. Can't. A little loud, I'd say. Should be quieter than that. Definitely snug. Well, there's a little bit of backlash in that, so I loosened it up too much. You shouldn't be able to feel it move if you load it back and forth this way. Okay, that's good. All right. Now that little hole, that little pin that's in this nut isn't lined up with one of these holes. Let me try flipping it over. Oh, there it is. Now it's lined up. That's probably tight enough. Okay, thrust washer. thrust bearing, splined thrust washer, I'm prying on that U-joint to try to compress the seal that's in there, that new seal, to give me enough space here to get this locking C-clip in there. Something a little stiffer. I'll try this one.
The axle stub needs to stick out of the spindle far enough so the C-clip groove is exposed enough to get the clip into it. I'm prying the back of the axle stub outward to squeeze that new rubber seal and move the axle outward. I got the C-clip started in its groove. Now it needs a little persuasion to wrap around the shaft. I have to hit it hard enough to get it to snap into the groove and seat properly, while being careful not to hit the thrust washer. It went pretty good.
It's in there. I'm just going to put a couple of lug nuts on it just to hold it so it doesn't fall off. That's how these hubs are held in, just by having a wheel tightened over them. So I can definitely feel that pulling in and squeezing on that O-ring. So I think this will create a good seal. Okay, that's set on free. And now lock. You can hear it click in. And now I'm turning that axle. Free. Okay. Make sure this key weighs up. Second, I use 35 to 45 foot-pounds. I'm going 36. 3 clips. Okay. Go for top board. Just slash some grease on here. Go for top board. Go for top board. Okay, I RTV'd the O-ring into place, and I stuffed a lot of grease down in there in the splines. Don't forget to pump up that U-joint with some grease. Since I went to the trouble of putting a fitting in. Okay, the hub is unlocked, spinning freely. Put it on lock. Now the whole axle's turning. Free it up.
Thank you for watching. Please take a moment to like and subscribe.